As a publisher of classical curriculum, I would like to apologize for the great books. For the many authors among the Greeks, the Romans, and Christendom, they are an incredible heritage worth preserving, and here is my apology.
What?
Perhaps I should define my terms. Apology, something said or written in defense or justification of what appears to others to be wrong, such as Tertullian's Apology for Christianity. Perhaps now more than ever, the great books and our cultural inheritance of Western civilization is in need of this kind of apology. We want to make the case that an essential part of a robust Christian education is being equipped to make an apology or a defense not only of your faith, but also of the cultural soil in which Christianity grew, the authors, books, works, and history found in the great books. A defense of a Christian inheritance of the great books. And we'll do that by introducing you to some of these authors through our emails, where you will be able to receive a small taste of such an education. Old Western culture isn't the only curriculum to study the great books. There are many good ways to do it. But it is very unique in its narrative, story-like approach that is accessible and loved by teens, usable alone or in groups or family settings, yet engages with the ideas and texts to a degree that educators have told us it is their favorite tool for conveying a love of learning and the great books to students of any age. I want to share a short letter with you from one of the American founding fathers, John Adams, to his then 17-year-old son, John Quincy, who would later become the 6th President of the United States. My dear son, as the war in which your country is engaged will probably hereafter attract your attention more than it does at this time, and as the future circumstances of your country may require other wars, as well as councils and negotiations similar to those which are now in agitation, I wish to turn your thoughts early to such studies as will afford you the most solid instruction and improvement for the part which may be allotted you to act on the stage of life. There is no history perhaps better adapted to this useful purpose than that of Thucydides, an author of whom I hope you will make yourself perfect master in original language, which is Greek, the most perfect of all human languages. You may be relieved to know that students are not required to read Thucydides in the original Greek in Old Western culture. They can read it in English. But it is one of the many works they will read and understand, joining generations of men and women prepared for the stage of life through these works. The classical education of the American founding fathers and of the reformers and medievals before them, as well as the early church fathers, was not a coincidence. It was a tool they used to prepare themselves and their children for effective lives well lived. At Roman Roads Press, we are not canceling the classics. On the contrary, our mission and our motto is to equip families to inherit the humanities.
Steve Kim.
I don't like you doing the introduction. I'm just telling you that right now.
Interrupt me again, I'll shut your mic off. Interrupt me again, and I will shut your mic off.
That's part of the problem.
So Steve Kim.
Matt Kim.
I know.
You know Steve Kim? You know Steve Kim on Jason Whitlock?
I don't know.
Okay.
You don't know Steve Kim?
Are we recording?
Both of you guys just ruined my intro.
Dude, are we live?
Yes. No, we're not live, but we're recording.
Oh, we're recording?
But, so see
But
what
we will
happens.
be live.
Okay.
I'm starting my
I was
open.
following you
You
on Steve
interrupted the whole show. Now he
Yep.
feels comfortable interrupting, and he's a guest here.
Yeah.
This is now I'm gonna do a
You
different
told
intro.
me to act like yourself.
You're-
Make yourself at home. I'm pretty sure that's what you told me when I walked in the door.
Okay.
And now you're telling me I can't do something.
Okay, don't make yourself
Now
at home.
Matt's taking
changing
over the
it.
show.
We're
He's
changing
taking
it.
over the show.
What's going on?
Steve Kim is not here. Instead, Matt Kim is. That's where I was gonna go.
Oh, this is where we're going.
I was gonna
Man.
do a whole setup for
Man.
you. I had it
Man.
all laid out. It was so perfect.
And I messed
You
it
were
up.
gonna be so proud of me.
Damn
and
it.
like, and you're from Georgia.
I am from Georgia.
I know Georgia. I was there for 7
Georgia?
years.
Really?
Yes, I was out
Are
there.
we going to do the intro
dude, he
or we're
doesn't
going to
know-
just
No,
we're
this
going
is-
right into it?
He
we
doesn't
just
know
did the
Uncle
intro.
Gary.
That was the intro.
That was the intro.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Well, yeah, so welcome to Cross Politics. Thank you
Welcome
for
to
joining
Cross
us.
Politics. Thank you for the show. Like, share,
Yep,
comment.
there you go.
Let your friends know this is the best show in America.
All right.
Definitely come check
I'm
the place
done.
out.
I don't need to be here anymore.
Matt's a professional. That was. We should have had Matt just do the intro from the beginning.
Now,
It would have been a lot
Your
better.
show is Matt Kim.
Yes.
Right. But a free
Oh!
That's our producer. She just lost her job.
Thank you, Bree.
So
She just lost
everybody
her
say
job.
bye to Bree. So
It's
If you need
okay.
a job, I'm hiring.
I got an ad to read, but it's all in my mind right now. Hey, y'all, we have our Prodigal America Conference coming up October
Yes.
31st through November 2nd. We got speakers Steve Dace, Pastor Wilson, Pastor Toby, Dr. George Grant, Dr. James White, Dusty Devers.
Yes,
We're
that's
also going to
right.
be doing a live show. I got one more request out for a final speaker, and I'm just kind of negotiating, waiting to kind of see if they can do it.
is it a big name?
Let me just put it this way. It's a politician.
Okay. So we don't have that exactly.
We're the
We-
sound
we-
effects
put it
board
this
here.
way.
Well, you just made them, so that's why you're here. You didn't know that, but that's why you're here.
And if there's a couple events, there's a couple events that we just kind of need generosity for. We do a pastor's lunch that we don't charge for. It's free for the pastors, and we'd love for someone to sponsor that lunch. We always have someone every year to sponsor that lunch. And then we do a business makers lunch. That's actually $25 per person because we want people who actually are legitimately in the business of being in the business. That's gonna be on Saturday.
That's all it takes to go to the business makers lunch. Is
$25. Yeah,
Yeah, big business.
The pastor's lunch is on Friday. The business lunch is on Saturday, and then we do a conference called Business Makers. We got Isaac Botkin from T-Rex.
I talked to
Arms
him
speaking.
just this past weekend. He's excited about coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. Darren Doan. Trying to get Darren Doan to pull some bags of tricks out of his.
Is Darren coming? Did he say yes?
He said yes.
Yes.
He said yes.
Yes.
And then Kevin Freeman from the Economic War Room from Blaze Media. He's speaking and everything. So great
It's a
lineup.
nice lineup.
Great pre-conference lineup. So make sure you guys sign up for the business conference, sign up for the Prodigal America Conference. Look forward to seeing you guys there in October.
Let me say something about this real quick because I've been talking to our producer. One of the things we don't do very well is promote our own stuff. I just got to say, one of the things we don't have at our conferences are usually breakout sessions, and here's why. We want to give the speakers more time. We want to have more speakers involved, but also our breakout sessions are people's fellowship with each other.
That's right.
And I can't say that enough. So people come there and it's like, well, they start talking about marriage, start talking about family, and these groups naturally break off. We're sitting here smoking cigars, having a beer. We're sitting out there late at the night till the midnight, having conversations on how you're raising your kids. What are you doing with your business? And so our breakout sessions are very organic. They happen just by hanging out with people. And so you have some of the most intimate conversations and breakout sessions unofficially at the conference because of that. And we don't ever talk about that.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's
the fellowship's one of a kind. It's a blast.
And it's one of the best ways to have really good breakout sessions because the speakers will be hanging out with you. We don't have a private green room. You are a part of the conference in every way like the speaker is. So come out to the conference.
And so that brings me to Matt Kim. My screen is back up. Matt Kim is the host of the Matt Kim Podcast, a podcast for free thinkers, where he brings unapologetically honest and raw conversations with a diverse group of guests. Matt, thank you for coming on. We already talked last night, had a cigar together and everything.
That's
Thank you for
Thank
coming on
you.
the show, man. Appreciate you.
Hey, amazing to be here. Your setup, your podcast studio, amazing. It's so cool. I was told that Moscow and this center of the country is filled with racist, nationalists, and I'm on a board with a bunch of people that don't look like that, and I'm confused. This is not what I was told coming here.
Not everything on the
you
internet
have-
is true.
I walked in, I saw you. I was like, what, dude, I might be in the wrong place.
No, you don't have any idea how racist I really am. You just judge me.
You're the guy.
You and just how racist you are. You just judge me by the color of my skin, and assuming because I'm black, I can't be racist. Now I'm upset.
And I did say, man, I apologize.
Yes,
I shouldn't have
you did.
assumed
I was gonna
gender.
say that.
That
Yeah.
was not. I apologize. Whatever you identify with, I'm
Yes.
okay with.
Yes.
So Matt, you have been doing your own show. I found out about you. I think I've seen you before in my feed, but I found out about you because Pastor Wilson, our pastor, went on Tucker Carlson, and then you retweeted that. Oh my goodness, this is the pastor who led my parents to the Lord.
Yeah.
In the early '80s, here in Moscow, Idaho. Yeah. So at one point, your mom and dad were here for was it University of Idaho,
Yep.
going to college, getting their degrees, and what Doug and Nancy lived down the road from them. Whatever. I know you weren't alive then, but you got to know the story.
So my parents were here from Korea. They were studying. They were in graduate school at University of Idaho, and they lived in this duplex house. And on one side was where they lived, where I was born, and on the other side,
So you were born
sharing
here
a
in
wall.
America.
Yeah, I was born in America in that house. And on the
Wow.
other side was Pastor Doug and Nancy.
And
So
then they
how
just
in
kind of
this-
built a friendship over time.
Yeah, how in this small, large, incredibly large world of all people that I could be born next to
Yeah.
is Pastor Doug Wilson, which is still to this day mind blowing.
Wow. And
And
so
somehow this is how we got connected.
Wait, hold on.
yeah, I reached out to you when that happened. I was like, I want to get you on the show. I want to hear the story. And then you're like, actually, I'm going to be coming to Moscow soon. So.
Yeah.
Explain for me how you, because so even though I might be born in a house that's kind of next to somebody, I guess it's because of the relation of the gospel, right? So your family's kind of got close to them because of them sharing the gospel with your parents?
Yeah, I mean, they were literally neighbors. So there's one wall between their two residences because it's a duplex or two family house.
Got it.
And because they're neighbors, they chat outside. Somehow, Pastor Doug got my father interested in the idea of Christianity. They were Buddhist before they came here.
Really?
So they weren't Christian. They didn't have a Christian background.
Is that are you South Korea?
Yeah,
I assume?
South Korea.
Not North.
No.
Is that a South Korea thing? Because
Buddhism is really big in South Korea.
Okay. Is Christianity number one in South Korea?
Christianity is also very large, but Christianity is rather new. So upon the completion of the Korean War and World War II, with more Americans coming to Korea, the first people when you go into a new country, usually you send the missionaries.
Yeah.
So that was the first connection Koreans had with America, is the missionaries. So because of that, they planted a lot of churches. Christianity is a big part of the culture there.
But your mom and dad grew up Buddhist.
They were not involved with the church at all.
Okay.
And then they met Pastor Doug, and they became just neighborly friends, chatting, talking. And, Pastor Doug is a pastor. He's very vocal about his views and ideas. He's very good at articulating his ideas. And my dad one day was like, I kind of want to know more about what this guy's talking about. And it was that spark of interest that probably changed the history and the course of our lives and our family's history forever.
Yeah.
And that's what brought us here.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then, does your dad remember a particular argument or anything that happened that he said that turned?
It was his neighbor, and they were friendly, they're nice, and I think that's really testament of how society should be run. If you're good to your neighbors, if you're loving, you're caring, and you show them that the way you live your life, whether you're rich or you're poor, because neither of them were well off at the time.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that house. It's a tiny shack.
Yeah, you drove by it last night when you came into town.
I'm like, I can't believe I grew up in this house. It's a really small duplex. It looks like two double wides put together.
Yeah. Wow.
And, if you're friendly and you're caring and you show people that you are genuinely interested in their lives, you don't have to hard sell them Christianity.
Yeah.
If you show them that you're a person of notice, of respect, then people are like, okay, I like the way he lives his life. There must be something to it. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And then makes people question, because that's exactly what happened there.
So I'm just thinking. So you were sitting there one night watching the news. You've heard the stories from your parents, and then the news anchor comes on and is like, "Hey, tonight we're going to talk about the most radical guy in Christendom." You're like, "Oh, this should be interesting." I wonder who's. Wait, Doug Wilson. So did you already know the name, or
I had no idea. I've never heard his name before. I didn't know. We were actually on vacation together, and my father comes running into breakfast, and he says, "Did you watch Tucker Carlson's interview with Doug Wilson?" We've been on vacation for 3 days. No, I haven't been watching news. I've been watching. Wow. You need to watch and remember the stories I told you about the guy that introduced me to Christianity. That was our neighbor. Well, that's him.
Oh, wow.
He was like, I don't know what he's doing on Tucker Carlson. He didn't know that Pastor Doug's mission had grown so large. Yeah. Because they met in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
Yeah. When it was a small church.
He hadn't even started the schools or anything yet at that point.
And you lose touch. They had phone numbers. Your phone number was on a Rolodex. And that card.
Wait. Don't just do that. I was sitting down at lunch the other day talking to a dude, and I used the word Rolodex, and this cat was looking at me like, yo, that's a deep word.
Like
what is it? Explain to everybody, man, what a Rolodex is.
People used to write phone numbers on a piece of paper with a pen.
And put it into this little circle.
It's a wild concept.
And
in alphabetical order.
Yes.
Alphabetical order.
And they used to spin it and get their numbers out. That's really crazy. Yeah.
So that's how you got reconnected, was actually the Tucker show.
Yeah.
And your dad told you this is the guy you watched Tucker with Doug, and then you retweeted it, and that's how I think my brother also reached out to you.
Correct.
Me and my brother reach out to everybody, just so you know.
Well, now I feel less special, but thank you.
No. That's not what I meant by that. That's not what I meant by that. But I understand. That's awesome. Fair enough. And so, did Christianity stick with you, or what was your walk with the Lord as you grew up?
So we grew up in a very Christian household. It was always a part of our lives. My parents were very involved in the church. They always kind of, for the lack of the word, they always forced it on me. This is what you have to believe. This is what you're supposed to believe. You have to go to church. And I think when I got old enough to kind of make my own decisions, I was like, I'm kind of good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is not for me. I saw a lot of the hypocrisy within some of the mega church. Yeah. I found that very off-putting. I didn't relate to it. And I found myself kind of stepping away, walking away from it. and not being a big part of my life. I don't think I ever thought I don't believe.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about it. I don't know if that's the same thing.
You weren't proactive with it, and you just kind of put it on the shelf.
That's kind of a thing I think about all the time.
Were you still going to church at that time too, or no? Okay.
No, I mean, twice a year. Maybe Easter, maybe Thanksgiving or Christmas. I'll pick one of the 2 winter holidays.
Right.
One of the spring holidays.
Yeah.
And I'll go.
How old were you when you kind of started to go coast mode?
I think almost immediately. 17, 18 years old.
When you were leaving the house?
When I was leaving the house. Okay. So I left the house when I was 16 years old. I went to a boarding school, and then because of that, I'm not forced to go any longer. And once I had the ability to not go, I chose not to go. Yeah. It was definitely a choice. I could have gone. Yeah. I just didn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think before I started thinking about Christianity and God again, I'm going to say after I started the podcast.
Yeah.
So when did you start the podcast?
Okay, because let me interject here because I saw early videos I found you around the COVID time because I don't think you had either started the podcast or you were doing pieces, right? Is that correct?
I started about a year and a half ago.
Okay, so
not even COVID.
Okay, just
not even COVID.
So after 2020.
Hold on. I consider up
like
until
22,
now still COVID. Just so everybody knows how I understand. I still think we're in COVID. Yeah. It just hasn't hit 2.0 yet. That's my thought. But so yeah, I really do put like last year still like the end of COVID, mid of COVID. Yeah. So but by the time I found you had done a piece on that. You'd done a piece on just thinking politically, and it was so attractive because I felt like you and I were having a conversation together, and you hadn't made up my mind for me yet, but you were giving me enough of the facts to think through it. And I remember going down this journey with you of saying, "Oh, I already have my mind made up." But you walking me through the conversations, like I don't get a chance to have people who are thinking this clearly about a position run up in my feed. And so it was really, anyway, I just want to say that that's how I found you. Gave me something about how you found, I found you that way. And I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. So anyway, you started
about a year and a half ago.
Correct.
I want to back up before that. When did you get married?
13 years ago. We just did our 13th wedding anniversary.
Nice.
Congratulations.
And you got a 2-year-old.
And I have a 2-year-old. It took us over 10 years to have our first child, which was a journey in itself.
Yeah.
Because you want one, but it doesn't happen. And, you're like, oh. And then it's really hard on your wife because she's like, why am I not having it?
Yeah.
And then all your friends have kids. And then all of a sudden you have a little bit of self-hate, self-doubt.
Yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah. So that was a journey in itself.
Yeah, certainly.
But once you have a kid, everything that you worried about, you thought about, it almost lifts instantly.
Yeah.
Because now you get to finally start your life.
Yeah.
Because that's really
what it feels like. Yeah. Oh, right.
Before that, it's just precursor, warm up, preseason, and now you get to start the real game.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, at least for me.
Yeah. No, I think when we started, I mean, we had a miscarriage in our first couple of years of marriage, so we didn't really have our first child until I think 4 or 5 years into marriage. But when I'd say that one thing for me that was, I think, probably not unique to me, but I remember when I got married, I was like, I felt the weight of responsibility of like providing for my wife and making sure that she didn't have to worry about finances. I had this good burden. And then when we had kids, that's like when family started. You know, like okay, we're making some fruit here.
This is a real thing.
This is real, and all that stuff, and the culture that just kind of started building around that. So you got married 13 years ago. Has your wife kind of been on a similar spiritual journey with you?
I think she's always been a little bit more active within church. So if I went twice a year, she went
6 times,
6 or 10 times a year.
Yeah.
You know, so she was always a little more active. I think the reason that she didn't go more than 10 times per year or 6 times per year or whatever she goes is because I wasn't going.
Yeah. Right.
And
you were leading her, and it's like.
Yeah, it was 100% my fault. I know it now. I think it took me a while to figure that out. I was like, oh, it's Sunday morning. I like to play golf. You go to your church, I'm going to go to my church. Right? I'm going to go play golf. You go to church, and we'll go meet up later. And I think that was a mistake. Oh. I think we should be going together. I think that should have been a family endeavor. Yeah. I think even when our daughter was first born, she was taking our daughter. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to relax. I'm going to chill. And I think that was a big mistake too.
Wow.
I still think that's a mistake because I still do it sometimes.
Yeah. So a year and a half ago, you started a podcast. What were you doing before? What were you doing for work? And then why did you start a podcast? I don't think I had the guts to start a podcast by myself. I had to get Knox involved and Toby involved.
You got Toby first, yeah.
Yeah. But you'd started it by yourself. So what were you doing before that? And then why did you start it?
So I have a lighting company. I sell light bulbs, commercial industrial lights. Very uninteresting.
Well, I'm interested. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay, you may be, but
I am actually.
99.9% of people are like, okay, that's awesome. But it's not. It's something that I was doing for a very long time. I think it's something that I've kind of lost passion for because it's work. I'm trying to make money. There's no
own the
purpose
company?
behind it. Yes.
Okay.
There's no purpose behind it. There's no real the
People need light.
the sole
Man.
focus of it is so that I can make money.
Sure.
And for me, that's always just never been enough. I didn't feel like that should be my mission in life, but I didn't know what it was and why that I felt that way. I just felt that way. And like people who are drowning in their regular lives, going through their grind, they know that something about their life isn't right. People know it inherently. Sometimes just figuring out what that is that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I was home one day and my daughter was maybe 4 months old or something like that. And I'm yelling at the news, yelling at the TV, probably something Sean Hannity said. And I'm really mad at him. Because,
We all yell at Sean Hannity, don't we?
he just makes you yell at him,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, after interviewing Bruce Jenner,
yeah.
that was
Like,
it
why?
for me. That was it for me.
Why do you have Gavin Newsom on again? This is ridiculous. Something like this, right? I'm yelling at the TV. And my wife comes running downstairs and she's like, shut up. Go tell someone that cares. You're going to wake up the baby. And it was this like aha moment in my mind.
Stop.
You're right. I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I walked into my office the very next day and I said to Will, who works with me, I said, Will, we're going to start a podcast. And he looks at me. He's like, I like podcast. That was it. I went on my computer. I said, hey, Google,
How to start a podcast. Yeah.
how to start a podcast.
Yep.
And
I
that's
did
when
that
started.
same Google search.
I had never been on a podcast before. I never started a podcast before. I didn't understand kind of all like teleprompters and black magic ATEMs and none of this. The Rollcaster, I learned all from scratch by myself.
Knox knew. I had to go through that journey. I
never considered, never consumed it. That world was not a part of my matrix that I'm fed.
Yeah.
No idea. I just had to start. And I think that's what I do well is I have an idea, I want to do it, and I don't fear just going and doing it.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's on the side until you do it. And that hesitation is really what causes, self-doubt. I don't believe it. I think you just go.
Yeah. So what's crazy to me, and Knox, you can interrupt everyone, but what's crazy to me is that you've been around for 18 months or whatever, year and a half, and you've had Tucker on. You had Andrew Tate on.
4 hours, by the way.
4 hours. Yeah.
4 hours.
Too long. Like, give me the show notes. You had, you've had some pretty notable guests.
Yeah.
Kind of gone from 0 to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Pretty successfully.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case?
Well,
Is America that racist that they're going to support?
Let's check this off. Make sure we get the Korean guy, guys.
Is it because America's a racist?
Check, finally.
Yeah.
I think what you call that a statistical anomaly, it doesn't happen. If most people say, I want to start a podcast and my goal within a year is to somehow connect with the biggest names in the space,
Yeah.
it's not even a goal that you could have. Like when I started this, you have the goals that the goals that your reach goals, you have your stretch goals, and then you have your what you would call impossible goals, right? And then you have the goals that you did not even know you could have.
Yeah.
The goals that were never even in your possible reality. Even you don't even consider it impossible because you don't even believe you're allowed to have those goals.
That's happened to us multiple times. Yeah.
Somehow I'm in that realm.
Yeah.
And the only explanation for that is that God is making it happen, that this is what he put me here for.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that in my logical analysis and my viewpoint, I can come to that conclusion. Because any other explanation actually doesn't make sense.
Was there a moment that happened in your first month or couple months of the show where you're like, oh, wow, this is actually going to turn into something?
I never thought it would turn. I still don't think it's going to be anything.
Yeah.
Because it was never the goal to be something. I just
Had to get your ideas
You just
out.
need an outlet.
Yeah.
I just saw a camera and I'm like, okay, like I have these ideas swirling in my mind. I'd like to put it out into the world. Usually when I hear a topic or a news topic, I like to think, okay, like what's the real story here? And if I were to think about it, then how would I like to be presented the information? I want to be able to make my own decision. I don't want people to tell me what to think. I want to make my own decision. And right now the news forces you to believe what they believe.
Yeah.
I don't want to believe what you believe. I want to believe what I
Just
believe.
tell me what's going on, what's happening here. Yeah.
But how can I know what's going on if no one's telling me and presenting the
That's right.
facts that matter?
That's
People
right.
say it's non-biased. That's not true. It is very biased.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, because even-
information is biased.
Well,
That's
even what I do.
What it is.
because I
inherently.
present facts in an order that I want to present the facts.
Yeah.
There's my inherent bias in there.
Can't escape
That's
it.
right.
Right? People say, well, it's fair. No, it's not fair. There's a conclusion I want you to reach. But I don't want to force it there. I want to give you my reasoning why.
Yeah. Right.
And hopefully you'll agree with me, or maybe you won't.
Yeah.
But at least you had the opportunity to go through the thought exercise to come to that conclusion.
Knox is going to have a question after this because I got to read this ad.
I like it just tells me what to do.
Yep.
See how racist this show
You
is?
guys are aware that we have a new app, right? If not, you should download it. Johnny, have you downloaded it yet? Fight Laugh Feast app? Head on over to your app store and type in Cross Politic or Fight Laugh Feast, and my prompter's going crazy on me. Once you find the app, you may need to update your app, or if you have a Droid, unfortunately, we got to explain this. This is part of our ad. It's a little, but you got a Droid, so I got to explain it to you. You may need to delete your current FL app and go back and re-download the new app, and then everyone's happy and everything works. Once downloaded, you'll be able to view and listen to our content right over your mobile device, and we got all sorts of backstage content on everything from raising children to God and government. And then it's a great way also just the best way to actually to absorb our stuff. You guys know we've been canceled from Vimeo, suspended by YouTube. Well, our app right now is the most anti-fragile place of getting our content. So please download it, share the show, share the app, and a great way to engage with us.
So Matt, you asked, you had Tucker Carlson on, which is really interesting. And there's something that you said in the beginning of that interview that made me almost miss the whole interview. And I was like, I have to talk to him about this. And you said Trump helped you see the establishment, and Tucker showed you how to fight against it.
Yes.
And so this is a two-part question, which is, one is, how is it that Trump showed you the establishment, and what did you think what was going on politically before? And then how is it that Tucker then gave you the tools or showed you then how to fight against it?
Well, I think before, I've always been kind of interested in politics, but my interest in politics was I'm going to watch a lot of Fox News. And because I'm a big Fox News person, I know the news. I know what's going on. I'm informed. I'm a political guy. That's how a lot of people feel.
Yes.
If you consume a lot, it means you're an expert.
Yeah.
And when you're kind of going through that process and I'm watching Fox News and then Trump decides he's going to run for president, I'm like, I liked President Trump before he was a politician.
Yeah.
I used to have the Trump board game when I was young, so I used to play that.
Yeah.
I read Art of the Deal when I was younger, kind of first getting introduced to business concepts.
WWE and or F. You know.
I love The Apprentice because although it's reality TV, at least I got introduced to basic business concepts for the first time.
Yes.
In a very fun, interesting manner. Yeah. And I don't think that was, it's reality TV. But at that time, no one was doing a way to introduce these concepts to you. Yeah. You had to either learn it in a really boring book or that was it.
Right.
So I always resonated with him. I thought that was always interesting. Yeah. And all of a sudden, 2016 happens. They're like, oh, you got to hate him. I'm like, what? Wait a second.
Yeah. Uncle Trump.
Wait, why?
Yeah.
I like him. I thought you guys all liked him. Like, no, you have to hate him. You have to hate him. I'm like, okay, something's wrong here. I can feel it, that it's broken. And then you see it from 2016 all the way to 2020, and you see how weaponized the media gets. You see how weaponized government gets. You see how they can manufacture pandemics in order to remove certain people and create chaos and control the masses. You see that happening in real time. And you're like, oh, it's not what we seem.
Yeah.
And you have that aha moment. I think everyone has that weird aha moment. Yeah. And once you see that crack in the matrix for the first time, you start seeing it more in other aspects of your life. And I think that whole endeavor between 2016 and 2020 was my aha moment. Yeah. And that's why I say, he showed me that the establishment exists. Before that, I thought we just comply. I thought we had free will. I thought we had freedom.
Yeah.
And then you realize you don't.
Are you in Georgia at this time?
I am.
Okay, so now I don't think a lot of people know how strong of a Korean community Georgia has.
Yes.
Very strong. Like you can walk, there's parts of Georgia you drive down and for blocks, it's all in Korean. Oh, yeah.
Are you in that kind of community down there?
I was. Now I moved to the more conservative, rural,
okay.
Oh, yeah. I know where you're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
I moved out of it a little bit.
You're in Stone Mountain now? I see what's going on.
Yeah, thanks for doxing me. Great show, guys. Yeah. Just dox everybody.
Now I know everything I need to know about you. So were you the only person observing that in your circle, though? Because I don't know if everybody saw that at the same time.
Are you talking specifically to the Korean community?
No. I mean, if you're there in Georgia, everybody's part of the Korean community in Georgia. Okay.
I think most circles of friends have that one guy That's the aha guy, right?
Okay.
We all had that one guy that in the beginning you're like, this guy's crazy, such a conspiracy theorist. And I was like, wait a second, Johnny was right. Wait, he was right again. Wait, what? That's not true. Dude, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know more.
Yep.
I think I was that guy.
Okay.
You know, kind of always questioning, always have a different way of looking at things and not scared to think and go, let my mind go those places. I think that's what it means to be open-minded,
Right.
to be willing to take the chance, to take your mind in places that maybe you were told you weren't supposed to go.
Yeah.
So then what did Tucker do that you said, okay, that's how you, because with Tucker, the response that you had with Tucker, he showed me how to fight the whole thing, the establishment. I'm like, oh, so what did you pick up from Tucker? And then what did you do that was an engagement against the establishment?
So he has a very interesting, fascinating way of putting words together. I love the way he puts words together. I love the way how he presents facts to give his argument. Like we talked about earlier, when I present facts, it's complete bias. I'm presenting the facts in an order that I want you to see those facts.
Yeah.
Right? I'm leading you on a journey, and I'm telling you a story using those facts. So it makes that story very relatable. It gives it credibility because you are basing your idea on facts. At the same time, you're following my story that I wrote with my intent to give you my idea. Right? That's what he does better than anybody. So when he used to do his opening monologues, that's exactly what he did.
Those were so
When you watch Fox News, everyone's talking about the same exact thing. And out of nowhere, Tucker's like, well, but what about those aliens? You're like, whoa, what? What are we talking about here today?
Yeah.
It gives you an opportunity to challenge your mind, challenge your worldview. And I love that. And I think when he got fired from Fox is the moment that I was like, wait a second, something's not right here. I feel like I'm missing, I have a gap in my knowledge base. I feel like something's missing from my input. And that's the reason why I started doing my short clips. If you notice, there's a lot of things that are similar, and it's not similar because I want to mimic it. Like he'll say, oh, did you hear? And what? They're going to call me a conspiracy theorist, where he uses inflection in his voice to emphasize certain words.
Yeah.
I don't do it intentionally, but I found myself doing it because I consumed so much of it. So it gives you an idea of what worked, what I really resonated. And I feel like if it resonates with me and it resonates with so many million people, that it can, that if I do it similarly, and I'm not mimicking, it's just something I do because it worked.
Yeah, I think that Tucker is the Rush Limbaugh of our era. Right. And I don't think a lot of people don't really know how impactful Rush was in his era and what he was able to do. But Tucker has done something I don't even think, and boy, people are going to crucify me for this, that Rush Limbaugh hasn't necessarily ever did, that he never did in his era, which is to go from mainstream and then come back and say, okay, I lost all of that. Now I'm going to go all the way down to the average guy who just bought his Rodecaster and I'm going to compete in that market. And he's just showing like, you can do this. You can make it. You can exist in this space even when you lose your platforms. I don't think, I know Bill O'Reilly's still impactful, but I don't think that Bill O'Reilly did so good after he left Fox.
No, not like Tucker.
Not in the impact of culture that Tucker has had.
Yeah.
And so like when I look at that, I look as like, wow, we have no idea the next 20 years how much what Tucker has done for us in this new, because it's not just political, it's actually business space. It's actually podcasting space. It's in film and engagement on platforms. I mean, he's the one that actually make X something to want to come to, right? And so it's just interesting to me to see like, oh, wow, what does 20 years look like of a model from something like that? I don't think we know what that looks like yet.
I think it's actually a step even bigger than that. Because
you just want to one up me.
Of course.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
You
It's
brought
like a
me
black
on.
Korean thing.
It's just a soul right here. That's all it is, a bunch of soul.
You know, you got to make sure that the race conflict exists. Otherwise, no one watches. All right. I think what he's done is, because most podcasters, most news-related people, they speak to people that agree to them. Right? So Rush is big, but people that watch and listen to Rush on a regular basis already inherently agree with him.
Yeah.
Right? When Tucker speaks, it's not just people that agree with him, it's all the world leaders that listen to him.
Yes,
if you are in Argentina, or if you're in China, or if you're in Singapore, or whatever country you are, and you want to know what the alternative view to the American news is,
Tucker's
he's the only person you turn on.
That's right.
So he has the ability, not even mass, but to reach the most important, influential people of our entire life.
It's incredible. Yeah,
And
I
I don't think anyone's done that before.
No, I
to be that voice that can talk to literally all the world leaders. And when Tucker says something, everyone goes, huh, what is he thinking? I think that's the impact that I don't think anyone's ever had before.
I actually agree with you on that.
That's
I couldn't
a good
agree with you more. That's actually true. Okay, I want to play. Gabe, do you have a question?
I just one comment there. Like it's because he's the one that's actually doing real journalism.
Yeah,
It's
the art is lost.
It's insane to me that like, why did Fox never go interview Putin? Why didn't CNN? Why not? Like, you're a journalist. Go talk to the other side.
we used to.
But we've gotten so myopic. Yeah, we used to. We got
Yeah.
so myopic in our journalism, and it's not even journalism anymore. It's just like we want to shove our worldview and our perspective and our narrative of what's going on down your throat. That's why they don't do it. And then Tucker goes to the president of El Salvador. Very interesting what's going on in El Salvador. He's just doing it, which is to me like you got me already interested when you're having these conversations.
As you're saying this, I keep thinking too. This is somewhat of a trap for us that we have to be careful of. I think everybody who's in this space needs to be careful of. Is that the powers that be, the boogeyman, they really do want you not to communicate to the other side.
No.
Right? They want to make sure that you stay in your little sound bubble and you hear your echoes and you don't talk to their guys, because we start finding out that maybe we're getting played if we start talking to each other. Now, we might not be on the same page, but there might be another institution out there that is trying to make sure we stay at odds so they can stay in power.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed in kind of the whole game is like they want to make sure that the left.
Well, dude, this is the Christian world too.
Yeah, and I think you're right.
Like,
if you have a conflict with somebody, how can we maintain that conflict and then weaponize you to do what we want you to do against them or for us?
I think even in censorship right now, if you are a liberal platform or a liberal host and you have a liberal show, and all you do is push the pre-dedicated liberal ideologies, then they'll never shadow ban you, they'll never censor you, they'll never shut you off.
Yeah.
If you are a conservative host and you only mimic exactly what Fox News and the conservative media is required to say, you actually don't get in trouble because you're controllable. They know what you're going to say.
Which is why the Daily Wire doesn't have a problem with
they have
YouTube
no problem
and Facebook.
because they're in line. Yeah. If you try to be a guy that encourages people to think past narratives, left or right, to think for themselves, to break through narratives, break through social norms, you're the problem. You're the ones that are going to get shut down.
You free radical, you.
Yeah.
They do not want people thinking for themselves. Here's what we want you to believe. Shut up and comply. That's the goal. It doesn't matter if it's left or right anymore. Actually, it's not.
It's true because
pick a lane.
Yep.
We want to control you because we want you to be an exact data set. And if you're a variable,
you're free radical. You're Smith.
We don't like that.
And where this comes in, like mainstream media is doing that.
Yes.
And then once a guy like even on the left side, Chris Cuomo gets kicked out of mainstream media, and look at him now, like he's interviewing anti-vaxxers now. Like, did you see Chris Cuomo's interview? Like,
I try to watch as little as Chris Cuomo as I possibly can.
Thank you.
Unless he's talking to Tucker, I don't really want to see it.
But
I don't believe the guy.
I know.
I don't
believe nothing this guy says.
Did you watch his debate with him and Dave Smith on PBD?
I saw the short clip of it.
Dave killed him. Dave took him down.
Yeah. Praise God.
But my whole point is like actually once you kind of get out of that box, that mainstream box, guys like Chris start thinking more freer.
Well, I don't know. I think, maybe the market is driving it, but I think Chris knows where eyeballs are at, and he's trying to gather them.
Oh, I believe.
Chasing narrative.
Chris
That's
is not
right.
driven. He's not driven by truth.
Or principle.
Yeah.
Unless it's
is there a
green.
difference
Or
between
conviction.
principle? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a game I was thinking of, and this is a short game. It's not. How much time we have you for?
How 10 years, whatever.
Oh, bro, don't play. Don't play with me. We just started barely in year one.
Marathon night. Let's go.
So here's the game I want to play. What if?
Okay.
What if Trump gets elected? What do you think America will look like in the next 4 years with the Trump presidency? Be careful, because I'm going to ask you the opposite of that.
Okay. I don't think much changes.
All right. So if Trump doesn't, I'm just going to let you want to work that out?
Yeah. I think that we are in a place where Trump winning is necessary. I think he's going to be a placeholder in society because we've gotten so hard left that we need someone to give the right and conservative and Christian values time to catch up. If you look around and you talk to other Christian value places, you see what's going on in culture and society. We are not ready to go to war or battle.
Oh, I agree.
We are not. What he's going to do is buy us time to gather and get ready. I think the next election is actually the election that matters. And I think Trump is necessary to give us that time and be that placeholder for us. I think a lot of people think that Trump will get in power and everything will change overnight. I think a lot of people are going to be very disappointed. Actually, history has shown that he's actually a pretty moderate leader. The left will paint him as a radical. He's not. He's actually very much in the middle. He's very good at appeasing as many sides as possible. I think that's what we need right now. To
Never heard that. He's an appeaser. Never heard that.
But he really is.
Part of the deal, like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's always making deals, trying to make it so that we're in a situation that both sides can at least accept and everyone feels like they lost a little bit, right? He's very good at that. But I don't think that's a radical vision that will change it, because the radical vision that we need is you need God back in society. You need Christian values back in society. You need people to focus on family values more back in society. These are the things that are most important. And these are not his points.
No.
But that's what we need. So he's gonna be the placeholder to give us time to gather. And who the next person will be that maybe will change. Because you can't go from going hard left and just yank it and go hard right. That's actually very disruptive. If you're going hard left, you need to slow down, slowly bring it back, and you build momentum, and then you head the other direction.
Sounds like there's really a 12-year idea that needs to be here.
And that's really how most societies work, right? Is that you have an idea, you build on it, you work on it, you build momentum, and you implement it down the road. This idea that this new modern American idea that change happens immediately, I think is flawed.
Ozempic.
Yeah, everyone thinks it happens now. This innate need for immediate satisfaction. It actually doesn't work that way. It takes time, it takes structure, it takes planning. And I think that's where we really need to be thinking. What does 6 years later actually look like?
Yeah. I could see, this is just kind of thinking really far out there. I can see, let's say Trump wins again and the economy gets back to being good and all that thing. Get better, you know. And he kind of wins over most of the country. And then the next Democrat and Republican are both running on trying to draft off Trump. Like the Democrats did with Reagan. You remember? The Democrats are like, you know, quoting Reagan and all that stuff.
Yeah, yes, it's how he got Bill Clinton.
Yeah. So I could see that kind of happening where it's like in 4 years, the Democrats are actually trying to draft off Trump instead of, because he's just done so well and got so many votes.
I don't think the media ever gives in on this "we hate Trump" thing. Or they will never give up on the orange man bad narrative.
No,
because they're so far dug in that if they were to make the shift, even if they wanted to, they would lose all their credibility. To almost the entire country. Actually, that for them.
Do they have credibility though?
Well, they don't. But at least they have name value. We say we don't
brand
care
recognition.
About. We say we don't care what the news does. But as soon as something global happens, we're like, let me turn on the news. We still actually use them.
They still have name recognition inside of their brand that they serve. Right. And so if their own brand turns against them, that's what they're kind of, they have a pit bull that's ready to bite them at any moment. This is why. Okay. So then I want to, there's two questions here. So, okay. So you
get one. Choose wisely.
10 words or less.
So who would, okay, now let's not go that way. Let's go to the second half. If Trump loses, we were talking about this the other day too. Do you think things get crazy on the conservative side? Because there are a lot of good old boys out there that's like, I'm not going through this again.
We call them rednecks.
I don't think so.
So, good. Okay. Why?
Because every time something big happens and they say they're going to get real riled up and we're going to make a difference and we're going to fight, the reality is when push comes to shove, it doesn't happen.
COVID
is a perfect example. Everyone's so pissed off. We're not going to comply. We're not going to allow it to happen. I'm not going to call on my neighbor. We are not going to do this. But the reality is when push came to shove and the government showed up with the government gun and they told you, shut up and comply, everyone said, okay.
What's your cash app so people can give you an offering? I'm telling you.
OnlyFans.
We can Christianize it.
Feet pics.
You are so dead right. That has been my argument.
Yeah.
That has been my argument and part of me is a little scared to push it because I don't want to make them do anything. Yeah. But it's like, no. We haven't got the guts to be the kind of people because we haven't applied all of the things that are still available to us to work. And once we apply those, then it's like, okay, we've done everything, right? We've done everything we possibly can, and you're not hearing us. Now we have a problem.
I mean, the Texas border situation is the perfect example. In January, we stand with Texas. Literally everyone posted stand with Texas.
I know.
Texas convoy, Texas trucker convoy. We stand with Texas. We're going to send our military. We're going to send the people. We're going to send National Guard. We're going to go protect the border because Biden and the Supreme Court are taking away the people's right, and they're letting this invasion happen.
Yep.
What happened? Literally nothing.
Yeah.
Who talks about Texas border?
Numbers didn't change.
Nobody. Nobody cares. No one talks about it. What happened to all the people that posted the "We Stand with Texas" posts and flags?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that people don't care, but when they remove your conveniences and they say, if you comply, we'll give you a little bit of convenience back. People really like comfortable lives.
People don't understand about what moves them.
And
They don't understand what's been driving them. They've been reacting, not proactive. I think this is actually one of the reasons why Sunday church is so important, is because every week you go get re-anchored in the Lord.
Yeah,
as opposed to
covenant renewal.
Renewal, worship, instead of getting blown by, Fox and blown by the wind in this whole battle. So when Fox makes a big stink about the border, well, everyone's like, they get all riled up.
By the way,
they're actually getting played is what's happening.
There should be a stink about the border. There should be a stink about it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Let's just make that clear. I just think that they have the... Go ahead. I will let you finish.
But the anger that you felt at that moment for those 10 days, because that's really what it lasts, about 10 days.
That's a 10-day cycle. Yeah.
They wanted you to feel angry.
That's right.
Yeah.
You didn't feel angry because you chose to feel angry.
That's right.
They told you needed to feel angry. And the reality is, all the big voices said, be angry, be angry, be angry. And you're like, I am angry. Stand with Texas.
Yeah.
But nothing happened. You actually weren't angry because you weren't yourself angry. Yeah. You only felt that way because they told you should feel that way.
Right.
This is, I think,
it's being manipulated.
No, absolutely. And this is like, I think Christians need to have a very, very biblical understanding of what happens when your borders get overrun. It's because of your idolatry.
That's right.
The God is the one who protects your borders. God is the one who fights for you. God is the one who protects you and keeps you. And if you don't have his protection, it's because you've forgotten God. That's what the Bible has been telling Israel the whole time. Listen, when I bring you out of Egypt and bring you into a land, don't forget the Lord your God, because you didn't have chariots, you didn't have weapons, and God delivered you from Pharaoh. So when you get to a place that I take you, it isn't your weapons, it isn't your borders, it is me. And if you lose faithfulness in me, then your borders will be overrun. I don't care how big you build the wall.
Right.
And so if we don't return, so when we see, this is why I say, it's important, because when we see that, we should say, where have we forgotten God at? Because we have the most powerful military in the world and we can't keep our borders. We've forgotten God in some way. He's not protecting us. He's not keeping us. And so we're getting overrun. And so anyway, so
it's important to note, to your point, it's important to note that our borders haven't had a wall ever. I mean, we got sections of a wall, right? We got sections.
Right.
So
and
it's
I'm
like,
not saying not have a wall.
while the sudden is legal immigration ramping up, it's because we've lost God. It's because we aren't following God. It's because God is judging us.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The government wants to replace God in your lives.
Yes.
That they have the power, that they're the solution, that they can solve all the problems.
Why
in
are
your
you preaching
life.
right now?
And that's really what they want you to feel. And I think it's social conditioning. For example, I think the best example.
Social conditioning?
Social conditioning. Okay. So best example is after 9/11. After 9/11, they said, there's terrorists. We need to create a TSA. We need to create Homeland Security. We need to make
Patriot Act.
You need to, next time you go to the airport, you got to take your shoes off. You have to do the dance. You got to take your cell phone and your laptop out of the bag. You have to go in. We have to pat you down, etc. And we'll say, okay, that makes sense. You're trying to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. Okay. 20 years later, 30 years later, now you go to the airport and you're standing in line and you see a woman, maybe an older lady, getting maybe patted down, maybe a little bit inappropriately. We've all experienced that. We've all seen it before. Just maybe not so egregiously offensive, but enough where you feel uncomfortable in your heart.
Yeah, watching that go down.
Yeah. What do?
I make fun of the officer patting her down.
And then?
That's about all I can do right now.
No, you do nothing.
Yeah, what I
just
usually
say
do
you're
is
violating our Fourth Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Most people sit there and say, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah.
But man, I don't want to miss my flight. I don't want to be late. I don't want to cause a problem. They're humiliating you. You're watching something happen that you know in your heart is wrong, and you are simply complying. You're getting normalized to this idea
that's right.
of doing nothing.
Yeah.
And self-censor.
Self-censor. That's right. Self-censorship. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Why would I go out of my way to help someone I don't know, which is actually the Christian thing to do?
Yeah.
Why should I go out of my way to help someone I know? Because, man, I don't want to miss my flight. Yeah. I don't want to stand in line late. I may lose the overhead bin.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to give up my conveniences.
You gotta turn off your mic. I don't want to hear you talk no more today. No.
I don't want to give up my modern conveniences for the greater good of others. This is what we've been normalized to in our lives. Yeah. And then they say, okay, you know how you hate waiting in line for security? Well, why don't we create a program You can give us all your personal data. You can give all this information. You can give us all of your biometrics.
Yeah.
And you can skip 15 minutes. And all these people who say, I would never give the government my data.
Yep.
But 15 minutes? Really?
Yep.
Oh, where do I sign up?
You're talking about the Clear program now.
Clear check, all of it. You get 15 minutes of your life in exchange for everything. And we say we will never comply. We will never give up our data. We don't want the government interfering in our lives. And they say, but you get 15 minutes in line. You're like, oh, bro. For everybody.
That adds up over a while.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get people to comply. And then you think people are going to fight back because of an election? Really? In what part of history have we shown that we're going to fight back? They incrementally take away your freedoms. They give you back, they take away 100% of your freedoms. They give you back 80%. And we say, thank you, master. This is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for making my life better.
Yeah.
We've been normalized to this idea that they are in charge, that we serve them because they want to be God.
I don't like you right now.
I know it sucks, but
It's
once
so
people,
real.
but once
So
people
real.
realize that about their lives, and you start thinking in that context,
That's right.
you start fighting it. It's a
COVID-
mental model.
COVID was that wake up that I really thought I was
COVID was crazy.
I was so surprised. Part of my question is going to be asking you like, what was the most disappointing part of what has been the most disappointing part of America that you've seen over the years? And for me, as a person who grew up American, diehard, dad was in the military, like proud American, like love being American. I don't care. You can call me whatever you want to call me. I love America. The America that I grew up in, that I knew, did not show up during COVID.
Yeah,
that was the most I just knew all the people were going to bind together. We were going to sing together. We were going to pray together. We were going to be together. I just knew it. I just knew there was going to be some unifying form, because you don't get to tell us what to do. We free people. We free men. And then I'm watching even the churches go do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Fold.
I was in shock. And so since then, I've been trying to figure out, in the last 4 years, and I would love to hear this answer from you. What is the way to rebuild back the civility? And I want to be a little more practical here as an individual who's listening. How do we build that kind of civility back to America? Because we're even having the conversation right now. Constitution's dead. Like we don't even do Constitution anymore. So you got a podcast you have for the last 18 months or so. Like how do we build back those type of people who would not take that?
Well, I think people need to live with honesty and integrity, be genuine. I think that's the most important thing. I think that's what we're lacking on the internet. People are no longer honest and genuine. Everyone that you see online is a character, right? They're actually not who they are in real life.
Oof.
And these people that you watch online that we trust
for
to give
real.
us our ideas, they're liars.
Yeah.
They don't actually believe what they're telling you.
But enough about Sean Hannity.
So I think that's number one, is that you need to bring honesty back into society, because we are a culture currently built on lies. All your Instagram photos are photoshopped. They're doctored.
Facts.
That's normalized,
Yeah.
right? All your clips and everything is clipped out. You're removing all the filler. You're removing all the words. You're removing things that you don't agree with, and only putting out the ideas that you do agree with to make it sound sexy and good. But that's not real. I think there's a shift for people that are looking for honest, genuine content. If I trust you as a person talking to me, I'll be more willing to accept your ideas. If I can feel like you're a liar, if I feel like you're lying to me, I feel like you're disingenuous, actually, you shouldn't watch them at all. I think that's what people should be asking themselves about everyone they consume online, because there's unlimited people online now.
Yeah.
Do I trust him? Do I feel like this guy is a good person? Do I feel like he's telling me the truth, whether I agree or not? And if you feel like that person is honest, that should be the standard. If he's an honest person, watch him. If you feel like he's lying to you, even people have gut feeling. If you feel like this guy would lie to you, not is he lying to you, would he lie to you, turn him off.
Yeah.
Because you don't need him in your life. I think that's the first. I think secondly is that people need to live their best life. If you as you Christian conservatives, live your best life, and the people that are around you may not agree with your inherent values now, at some point in their life, they're going to run into a situation where they're struggling, they're hard, they have difficulty thinking about maybe a problem that they have, and they're going to turn to you for help because you have your stuff together. You understand it. You have a calmness about you. And that moment that they reach out to you, if you help them, they're like, maybe there's something to the way he lives his life. And it changes their perspective. You don't have to force it on people. You live the best version of your life, and people will come find you. That's what I believe.
Well, this is how God just built the world. Like truth wins. Like Jesus
We don't
says-
believe that. That's another thing too.
That's exactly right. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. no one comes to me, no one comes to the Father except through me. And whenever Jesus is the cornerstone, Jesus is the foundation, and as we stand on that foundation, a lot of what the church wants to do right now is be winsome. They want to they think it's the message or how I say it or whatever, but it's actually, are you obeying Christ and are you living out according to the way he's cut the grain in this world? And what happens is if you're faithful to that truth and standing on Christ over time, we've been lied about all over the interwebs, but over time, we're winning the argument. We're winning the culture. Our faithful, the thing I liked about Tucker, we talked about this a little bit last night, when Tucker asked Pastor Wilson, are your kids Christians? Well, Tucker was searching, and he was searching for, is Doug real? Is and the way Doug's real is you judge a tree by its fruit. Because Doug could sit there and talk.
Yeah. What kind of seeds have you been planting?
Exactly. And Doug could talk to Tucker all he wants about all these good things. Doug's got all these great thoughts. He reads C.S. Lewis, whatever.
What your grandkids look like.
What your grandkids look like.
That's the hardest one.
That's right.
A lot of people judge on what your kids look like.
Yeah, no.
Your grandkids look. That's
right.
That's culture. That's family culture that you've had to work hard on.
Yep.
To have good grandkids is like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because you actually don't have immediate control.
Right.
That means you had to raise your kids right such a strong way that they raised their kids right. That's the rare part.
But this is how truth affects us. If we're living in Christ and building our family on the foundation of Christ, and if we're building our city on the foundation of Christ, and if we're that foundation is solid. But if you're building on sand, we know the parable. Well, that's what gets washed away. And when anything happens in culture, when the wind blows, when Biden's president, when Fox wants to get you all worked up about what's going on at the border, you don't move because you're standing on Christ.
Well, and you're actually building something. Like that standing on Christ, people think means that you're just like, I'm going to believe it really toughly in my heart.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're talking about.
Right.
When you stand on Christ, you actually believe the reality of Adam's stewardship is restored for you to go take in some dominion of some places that haven't. You have a Caleb attitude and you go look at the mountain over there and you say, I wonder if God will give us that mountain. And you go and take it. So we go and take, we need this. We need education here. We need this there. We need a business like, and you go and do the things that are actually a benefit to showing that you love your neighbor in an economy, in this new economy, is one of the best ways to win an argument.
Yeah.
Like, no, we do. I know those guys. They take care of me when they do my car or truck or whatever. I know those guys.
Hair.
Or hair.
Right.
All right. I get it. That's enough of you. All right, man. I want to end the show, but I want to ask you a question about Christian nationalism afterwards. We can put it in the backstage. Is that fine?
You can you can ask me whatever.
All right. I really want to do that. All right.
So we're going to go backstage for a minute?
We're going to go backstage just for a minute.
Yeah.
Last words?
If you like the show.
Yeah, I was going to say, how can people follow you? What your show and all this stuff. That's your last words.
Well,
whoa, don't be white here.
Okay.
Let the man make his own last words.
I think Koreans need to listen to
I have two last words. First last word is whatever format you're on, whatever social media is your preferred form of doom scroll. You can find me there. If you look up Mad Kim, I should be on all the platforms.
Okay.
So whatever your preferred doom scroll mechanism is, go find me there. Number two, and I think the most important thing that I think is people need to consider is that making content, getting your ideas, if you're honest and genuine, out into the world, it's very difficult. Yeah. It's very difficult to do. You have to fight so many forces that are completely out of your control at all times.
Yeah.
The only way, if you like this show, if you appreciate this show, if you appreciate these two gentlemen, the only way you can actually help them is if you share your content.
Yeah.
You're so right, bro.
Tell a friend, hey, check these guys out. I like them.
Yeah.
That warm transfer, that warm share is literally the most powerful tool that we have available to us.
That's right.
So if you like the show, if you appreciate what they're doing, tell your friends. That's literally the absolute best thing you can do. And that's why I encourage everyone to do that.
Man, thanks.
I feel like after all this so much preaching going on,
join the club, share the show. We'll see you in October.
Thank you so much for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
man.
Thank you, everybody.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Always like I'm preaching. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.
Cheers.
Yeah. All right, man. So now
backstage.
The hard stuff now.
Awesome.
Christian nationalism.
Where are you at on the Christian nationalism thing? Is it a good movement? Is it a bad movement?
I think it's amazing.
How do you feel about being white adjacent? Okay, go.
Okay, well, people call me white adjacent all the time, so I'm okay with that. Actually, I had to Google it, and I still don't know what it means. But people say, "Oh, you're a conservative. You're like white adjacent. You must hate yourself." And I can't believe the other Koreans like accept you. I'm like,
What an insult, though, right? Like,
That's crazy
I don't care.
talk.
And if I make a comment about Trump, people always say, he wants to deport people like you. I get that all the time.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So, and I'm like,
People
okay.
Is that a liberal saying that?
Of course. I'm like, all right. Why are the liberals always telling me about racism while being racist? Why? Like, how?
Yes.
People don't get that?
What
It's
was
so obvious.
What was the girl's name? Chandler. Chelsea Chandler. She just came out and said, I had to remind 50 Cent that he was black.
Yeah.
So he can't vote for Trump. I'm like, oh, you did?
Yeah.
Speak into the microphone, please, about how you had to remind him he's on your plantation. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the Christian national movement, people would call it extremist, right? That it'd be the hard right, extreme right, whatever they want to call it.
Right.
I think it's necessary because we were actually walking up the street today and we were watching kind of Moscow, right? And downtown Moscow. And what I've noticed, because there's a lot of liberals here.
Oh, yeah.
We're a university
All the
town.
liberals in Idaho are right here.
There are hard liberals here.
Pretty much.
Of the amount of hard liberals that are in this town, in this downtown area, downtown is so clean.
Mm.
And we were thinking about it, walking up here. I said, I think it's because the right is so hard right that the Overton window is forced to stay kind of centered.
That's good.
Because with the hard left, you have the hard right, and it creates this weird balance that actually works. When most modern cities and other larger cities, the right is so moderately right, and the left is so hard left that the Overton window shifts to the left.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have homelessness, you have all these different issues, you have graffiti everywhere, there's trash everywhere. The
Poop on the
cities
sidewalks.
are not clean.
Yeah.
But here, because you have that hard right to balance off the hard left, I think it works. It's creating this balance. And I never considered that that would even be a possibility. But literally walking up the street, walking here, I thought, oh, that's exactly why this works. That's why this is necessary.
And what do you think the Christian nationalist movement is opposite of that's so hard left?
I think it's the opposite of what we're fighting right now.
The woke stuff is direct opposite of that.
Extreme woke stuff. The fact that there is no God, that you can be whoever you want, which is not true. That you can change your gender, which is crazy. If you ask people 30 years ago that the most popular and the social issue of our day will be that men can be women, women can be men, everybody like, you're crazy.
Right.
How do we get here? It's because the left went hard left and the right decided we're just going to go somewhere in the middle and be accepting and be polite and be understanding. And they allowed the window to shift. I think there has to be a hard right movement because it's going to force that window to come back center.
Yeah.
So then part of what people are concerned about in this conversation is that hard right movement, if it is able to pull the Overton window too far over, you're going to have some problems. I'm going to have some problems. And the way this is going to go, we won't like it.
I think if you are thinking about the greater good of society, you have to be a little selfless. And if that means that actually does happen, I don't think it will happen. But if it does happen, I think it's a sacrifice I personally am willing to make because I want a better future for my future generations.
Yeah.
And if it means you have to pull hard to the other side for that to happen, it is what it is. You can't stop. You can't only think about yourself.
I think
That's interesting.
I understand, like from a societal analysis, what you're saying. What I would, and I understand. I do think, unfortunately, when you have a bunch of sheep without a shepherd, that pendulum goes this way, that way, this way, that way, and and you're gonna have collisions, and you got So I'd say on the left we got the woke left, and then on the right I say we got like white boy summer stuff happening, and with some genuine examples of travesty. And also on the woke left, you could probably identify some real travesties there that they're responding to. But what I want to anchor in all this is I want to anchor into the foundation of Christ in this, so we don't have if you don't anchor into a foundation, then that pendulum is just going to keep bouncing back, left, right. Trump, Biden, Obama, George Bush. It's instead we need to be able to cut through and be able to find the true north, the true magnetic north in all this, and that's Christ. I would argue that's Christ. That's His Word. That's His Scriptures.
It seemed it worked for us before until we gave that up.
Well, we recategorize what success looks like. Before, back in the day, when things seemed to work a little bit better, we considered someone successful, someone that had a big family, that had big family gatherings, that was able to gather the community together. That was considered the leader. Yeah. Now, the person that we consider a leader is the richest guy. That just changed how
or
we
the most
perceive.
Powerful guy.
The most powerful. Well,
usually
wealth and richness becomes the most power.
Yeah.
Right. So we've changed what's important in our society. It's no longer family values, which are the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
You want to extend family, and the purpose of us is to have future generations.
Yeah.
We don't care about that at all as society any longer. Actually, we discourage it.
Yeah.
What we want is who's the richest, who's the most famous. That's the most important. And because you've made the most money, your voice matters the most. And that should not be the case. Actually, the wisest leader is the guy with the biggest family. Right?
Yeah.
The one that's able to keep the family together used to be the wisest leader in the tribe.
I got a question for you.
So
because
good. You're hitting like so much Bible right there, dude. It's not even funny.
You're a Korean American.
Yes.
So your parents were.
I just think you're American.
They weren't. They weren't born here. They came here, so they're immigrants.
Yes.
Correct. And then what's your thoughts on like growing up in America, kind of related to this nationalist politics that we're dealing with?
I don't know, Gabe. What are your thoughts as a white man growing up in America with?
Can't believe they're all here.
I was like,
Where are they going home?
I got a lot of thoughts.
That's
but
interesting,
actually, from like, because I grew up playing ball. So I grew up.
You grew up in a minority. You grew up as a minority playing baskbasketball. I'm just saying.
It was. I actually was like the only white guy on my college
White
team.
man can't
We know.
Didn't have to tell us.
I mean, I experienced the minority thing for a minute.
Right now,
victimhood.
If you want to find a white guy in the NBA, you better go overseas. They ain't letting American in.
But also, this is coming from like, I think in Georgia, it has actually, there's a real.
That's interesting because you're in the deep south.
Yeah.
Well, I am now. I didn't grow up there.
Okay.
That's true. But
I grew up in the
I think it was in Georgia that they were having some major, I don't know, gang violence. I don't know if you call it that between the Koreans and blacks.
So I think the media makes it sound like that way because there is a large population. They want people to think that's what's going on. Actually, if you go to Georgia and northern parts of Atlanta, it is extremely diverse. So if I go to a coffee shop and I see a group of 10 high school age kids, it's 2 white kids, 2 black kids, 2 Asian kids, and an Indian kid. That's the makeup. They don't actually, they have no problems.
Yeah.
Actually, the amount of racial violence and distrust within the northern parts and the suburbs of Atlanta is almost zero. People actually get on really well.
Interesting.
Which is contrary to public belief because it's the deep south that was racist.
Yeah.
And I don't even like the modifier.
Yeah, the most conservative areas are actually the least racist areas.
So I guess my question is getting at this. Is because Harvard this last year got found guilty for even
Discriminating
against Koreans, right?
Asians.
And so I'm sure they would include Koreans in that. I guess.
I was just making the category broader, just helping you out, bro.
Thanks for the extra label, by the way.
But But it seems like Koreans are kind of an interesting place because you guys have kind of got lumped in with the whites with the Harvard thing, but then. I don't know. I don't honestly. This question is coming from like a little more ignorance. Like I've had some Korean friends, but like what's your experience of like America and all this from that vantage point?
Growing up, I grew up in a very ethnically Korean area until I was about 13 years old.
Where was that?
In New Jersey, Palisades Park, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 80% of that town, businesses are Korean owned.
Wow.
So over 50% of my middle school was Korean. So I grew up in like this little Korean ethnic hub. So actually, that's all I knew growing up. And then high school, I went to high school.
Do you speak?
Yes.
Korean? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, come somebody.
Oh, amazing.
Is that pretty good? I have
That's
Korean
fantastic.
friends from
That's
Georgia.
fantastic.
They're so happy for me.
Well, I wonder if he would know.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, we all know each other.
Don't
Fine.
do that.
Yeah, all look same.
Doggone, Gabe. Oh, you did not just do that. Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going.
All look
Keep
same.
going.
So,
we were doing so good, and you just set us back like 5 years.
Do you know?
We were doing so good. I'm sorry, man. Keep going.
That's funny, Knox.
so I went to high school in Ohio, and going to Ohio was a really eye-opening experience for me because for the first time, I felt like I lived in America. Because I lived in this little ethnic
interesting.
hub.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything
That's
about me.
fun.
My school was half Korean and only Korean, not even other Asians, Korean.
Yeah.
And the other half was Italian, Greek, and I think we had one black kid in our school.
In Ohio?
In elementary school, in middle school growing up.
Okay, yeah.
And I've never met an Indian in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only reference I had to Indians actually growing up was Apu.
John Wayne.
Apu
Yeah.
from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go to Ohio.
Oh,
and it's,
dot, not feather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry. I didn't know I had to clarify that. Okay.
Another 5 years. Just
This is behind the paywall, right?
not anymore.
If it's not, you should put it there.
Not anymore. Somebody clip that. We're done. They can keep going. I'm sorry, man.
So I think going to Ohio, I got to see what America is like for the first time. And for the first time, I think in my life, I was like, it's a little bit different. Because there was maybe 4 Asian kids in my whole school, and there was 4,000 kids in the school. So now I feel like, I stick out a little.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that before because what I came from was normal. And that took me a while to kind of figure that out. You know, like, hey, this is not what I thought it was. And as you grow older, like when you're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you start looking for role models that look like you, that resonate with you. If you're black, you're kind of looking for a black role model because that's what you're feeling because at that age, it's identity. Identity is everything at that age. So you want to find a role model that kind of resonates with you. And at that age, between 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, even up to like my late 20s, actually someone online that felt like I can resonate with, they actually didn't exist. Actually, if I said, can you name another conservative person, another person on the conservative space that's talking to a camera, talking about ideas, that's Asian, could you name one? It doesn't exist. Actually, the category itself does not exist. So I think that was always difficult for me because we had no one to actually
Steve
look up
Kim.
to.
Well, I was just thinking of Mr. Miyagi, but that's okay.
Growing
My
up, I
hero.
think like, Jackie Chan was like the man for me because for the first time I saw an Asian guy on the main screen, but the main screen guy that we looked up to, we're like, oh, finally someone broke through.
Right. I know what that feels like. Yeah.
It feels good. At the same time, if you look back, the mainstream guy that broke through played a kung fu guy with Chris Tucker as a joke, as a comedian.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's actually not the best role model to have.
So, Gabe, this is like a white guy who gets into the NBA.
Yeah, and you're like, yes, he's the white
we made
guy.
it.
Oh, like Steve Nash.
Exactly.
John Stockton.
And then you realize he's from Lithuania and he's actually not American. You're like, oh,
He's not one of us.
the whole thing was one of us.
I
He's Eastern
to
European.
like maybe be a little contrary. I know growing up, I wasn't looking for like a white or black role model. I mean, Michael Jordan was my favorite player. Of
course.
Ken Griffey Jr. was one of my favorite baseball players. Fred McGriff was actually one of my faves. So
But it's because you had the options of so many out there. But when you have nobody out there, it feels like there's no one even more. You know, when you have a lot to choose from, then you're like, okay, I made a choice to not go with them and I'm going to go with someone with the contrary. But when you presented with no choice, you actually feel lost. So I feel like there's a lot of Asian Americans in society that feel lost because they actually have no one to look up to. And now we're in a place where being Asian, being Korean, and other things are kind of pop culture, right?
Well, yeah,
K-pop is
especially- I was
huge,
gonna say,
Korean
yeah.
dramas are
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'm
Netflix
following
feeds it to you.
Yep.
The only problem with all the Asian Americans propped up in American society right now are woke liberal cucks. So you watch them and you're like, like that actually is not a good role model.
Yeah, we've wanted to
All
be there
hot-
in the limelight so much that we've given up what the things that make us unique. Yeah,
They
yeah.
sacrifice all their core values,
absolutely.
all their family values, all what really resonates with actual Asian American culture, which is family values, hard work.
Yeah.
That's the basis of
Yeah.
what we were taught.
That's facts. Yeah.
They give up all of that in order to be famous. Everyone's a sellout. And I think that's a huge problem also. How can we figure out a way to prop up someone that has good, honest, genuine ideas and put them out into the world and actually create a new generation of people that don't feel lost, have the ability to make change? Because the reality is there are a lot of Asian Americans out there and their core values are actually very Christian because they mostly raised Christian, that they believe in hard work, they believe in meritocracy, which is important things in life, and they believe in strong family values. These
Didn't
are
the
people you actually
Smithsonian
want to bring
make
in.
all that racist? The Smithsonian made all that.
Yeah, they don't get to do that.
Yeah.
I want you to finish your thought.
Well, I think that's a problem. I think that's something that I've never thought I'm trying to do. But I think a part of me actually wants to do that because I know growing up, I wished I had it. And even if I didn't ever verbalize it, in the deep back of my mind, I knew I needed it. And it didn't exist. So at least put myself out there and create an option for someone to find.
Yeah.
I think that can encourage maybe the next generation of people, next generation of leaders. And I think especially amongst the population, if you see more groups of people start to embrace this conservative lifestyle, it creates a confirmation bias for all these other nationalities, all these ethnicities. That actually it's not a white thing, that it's an everyone thing. But it can only happen when you see leaders emerge from every single aspect. For example, I think about black churches all the time.
As do I.
Why are black churches so family oriented, so loving? They are some of the most devout Christians out there, but yet they are so woke and liberal in their political ideology. It doesn't make sense, actually. Why? Because you need to elevate more black leaders within the community that are able to do it, not by being black leaders, by being leaders. And once they see that there are black conservative leaders in the mainstream by being not the black leader, but by being a leader, it encourages other people in the future generations that they themselves can do it too.
Man, why you open up a can of worms right now?
I know.
Here's the deal. Because I don't even know how you do that. Part of Clarence Thomas talks about this is like after I graduated, I didn't think my diploma was worth $1, right? Because part of how I got it was just because I was black, right? Now, that's not saying he didn't do the work and all that stuff, but he understood that there was a certain sort of idea behind him getting there.
Right.
And they felt, because the left has been arguing, in one sense, I think a piece of that the way that we do this is by platforming. The Southern Baptist Convention is going through this right now. We've done a poor job of platforming black leaders. And now, or even let's talk about the idea that the airlines are saying we need black pilots. We need to elevate minorities because we don't have enough of them. And so we become better when we are unified together in kind of this multicultural environment. And other people are saying, look, I don't have a problem with somebody who does the meritocracy and gets there. But I don't know now, because of the way the culture is working, if this person on merit is here or if they're here because they're black or a woman. So how do we, when we say we want to elevate, because I hear you, I'm not disagreeing with you. When we say, hey, let's elevate, or let's make sure that we have black people who are capable of leading in that position, I think is what you're saying, right? But now we don't know anymore to trust it because we're just putting people out there because they are minorities.
It's the Matt Chandler thing.
It's because we've been normalized to it. I use that word normalization a lot. Obama got there. He got to the seat at the table, at the head of the table. He had the ability to affect change. He sold everyone out. He got there, he got in charge, he had the ability to actually make a difference.
Black people knew it too.
And the community propped him up, helped him get there. And as soon as he got there, he sold everybody out.
They knew it right away.
Everyone, once they get to that seat of power, they sell everyone out. You need someone to get there into that seat of power and not sell out their population, not sell out the community. And that's the hardest part because the community pushes them, helps them get there. They sell them out and they lose trust in the system. They think it's not possible. They think it's because, he wasn't qualified. Well, he wasn't qualified. You got him there. And he could have used that opportunity knowing that he has to be humble, that he didn't do it by himself and use it to prop up his community. But instead, he sold you out.
So I'm thinking about it in contrast to what you're saying. I think you're dead right about how, like, yes, we all felt like the culture felt like they were sold out. And that's when I started thinking for myself and saying, what if the seat of the table isn't where Obama was sitting? What if the seat of the table is where I sit every night at my dinner table?
Yeah,
so that whatever happens in power happens where the real authority that I have to function is at. So that whatever decisions he make, I don't feel sold out because he doesn't represent what sits at this table every night anyway. And I kind of feel like that Malcolm X really did have an idea about that, to say we don't need to ask for permission from anybody else or to be human in like any other way because we have the table right here. How do we stop begging for a seat at what we consider the positions of power table and start taking the authority that we have at this dinner table every night with our wife and with our kids and with our families and build institutions from here that serve other people? That's where our positions of power. Then I don't have to be sold out by the next guy.
Right. I think it's two separate things. So one, your role and responsibility as a man is to take care of your family, take care of your wife, and be the leader of the household. That is your responsibility. If you can't do that, you're failing in life because it is your sole responsibility as a man. Take care of your community, your immediate family. That is your number one goal. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be doing anything else. But you should not be running for power. You should not be running business. You should not be doing anything that influences other people's lives because you can't do the most basic thing, which is handle your own household.
That's right.
So that's how you change that. You just have to do it. That's personal responsibility. You don't have to encourage people to do that. That's what you're supposed to
be doing.
You don't reward people for doing that. That's what you're supposed to be doing.
When you wake up, that's what you do.
That's your job.
Oh, you're such a great father. No, don't say that. You're supposed to be a good father. Don't reward someone for doing what they're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's coddling them. It's not true. That's your job. You have to do it.
Yeah.
I think as far as in seats of power, it's necessary because we live in a top-down society. In order to get a seat at the table, it's not someone gives you a table. No one pushes you there. There has to be a man that's willing to go, show up, and take the seat at the table. You have to exert yourself to be there, right? And you need that type of personality that's able and willing to do it. That is the most dangerous road to take because you are going into a seat of power, into a table of power, pushing someone aside, grabbing a seat, and just sitting down uninvited. But that's what needs to be done. That's the only way actually power works because that's the only way they respect you when you get there. If someone pushes you there, someone calls in a favor, you've all been at a dinner or a table or someone gets a job and because they're the son of someone or this brother and son of someone else and they get there, you're like, oh, well, they don't really deserve to belong here. No one respects that man. The guy that shows up, grabs a seat, sits down, and all of a sudden figures out how to get involved in the conversation immediately, everyone respects that guy. It's got to help figure out who that guy will be because those are rare, very hard to find that have the ability to do it, but they exist. They just got to get involved.
That's good. That's good.
Dude, I can't believe I got you stopped talking.
No. I'll let it end there. I do think that, so if there's a contention between us, and I think I can harmonize the two between, I really do think I can harmonize our positions. I don't believe the world is based off of a top-down setup. And that's why I think America has worked. Because if it was, slaves should have never been free. Right? I think that America has tried to follow what a biblical reality of the authority of the world works. Because if it was, and I think Jesus modeled that in such a way that the last become first, right, and the first become last. I don't think that
lay your life down for your friends.
The real hero is the guy who lays. So that's why I use the example of the table, and I don't think that these two have to be in conflict. But I am a little concerned in the sense that the left thinks that it's top down as well, and so they all run for the levers of the top. And I'm trying to say, no, I think God made the world so that the people with authority actually have the real power, and that has an effect in society regardless of who thinks they have the levers. So Jesus changed the whole world, not because he had the levers of power, but because he had the authority to lay his life down, right? And then the resurrection life gave him full power and authority over all things because he destroyed them through his death. Yep. And I think that the area that we're missing as it relates to power is that the area that we need to go die in is not at the top level. That comes after death and resurrection, right? And so, does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense of that.
It makes sense. I think that leadership, and especially current leaders, because if you look at the state of society, it's proof that the leadership doesn't work, right? We have weak.
Or should I say, it works against us.
Yeah. Well, we have very weak leaders.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what they do is they mimic and they follow what society wants. And what society wants is we actually want more control. We want more convenience. We don't want to worry about things in our life. I'd rather watch Netflix. Don't make me make decisions. Don't make me think for myself. I have YouTube videos to watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so actually, we're telling them we want it, and they're just mimicking it. So we need someone that's a strong leader that's against that to help shape the thing.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get it.
I think that's really what it is.
Yeah.
As far as, things like slavery and being able to adjust and adopt, I don't think we've removed it. We've just changed the category of who is enslaving.
Yeah, the 13th Amendment proves that.
Yeah. If we're sorting and we used to sort, slavery by race, now we're doing it by political ideology and by demographics and economics level, right?
Yeah.
So we're still slaves to society. We're still slaves to the overlords.
Right.
It's just a matter of how you categorize it. In our minds, we think it's race-based. It's not anymore.
Right.
But still the same exact structure that we're in. We're stuck in a loop.
Yeah.
You can't break free.
I agree with you totally on that.
100%.
People think that we abolished slavery. 13th Amendment shows we didn't.
We're just enslaving different people.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's
and we're saying who the slave master is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Slave master becomes the state, not the individuals don't have the right to own slaves anymore, but the state gets to own slaves. Right. Anyway, that's really good stuff, brother. Appreciate having you on, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
What's
Before you guys close, who do you think should sit at the head of the table?
Oh,
so okay, so
So this is from Johnny.
I didn't know that there's this thing going on, but somehow somebody's asking the question, who do you think should sit at the head of the table, and why is that an important question?
So, okay. I think we talked about earlier. I think Trump is a placeholder for the next 4 years of our lives.
Right.
Because he's necessary. I'm never going to say I hope Biden wins. Trump needs to win. But he's not going to affect the change because he's not aligned with the core values that I think we all think are necessary.
Yeah. Right.
That's a little more on the extreme side of God first.
Yeah.
Right? He's America first, which is amazing. I think we need God first.
Yeah.
I think the person that should be running in 2020 is Tucker Carlson. I think he should be the next candidate. I think he's the first person that believes in God, trusts in God, understands that God guides his life, that he has the ability to reach both sides.
Yeah.
He has the ability to reach world leaders. He has name recognition. He has a certain following, and he lives an honest life. I think if anyone were to run for president, I think he should be the one. I think it should be 2028. And in order to get him elected in 2028, I think that mission actually starts now. Just plant that seed in people's minds. That's a possibility. Because can you imagine if he was to be president?
Tucker Carl didn't kill himself. Anyway, keep going.
Like, how amazing would that be? Because he understands. He sees truth.
Yeah.
He believes in God. He knows God first.
Yeah.
He reads scripture. Anytime I have opportunity to speak to him and I ask him a question, a difficult question that I'm thinking about in my life, he always responds to me with scripture.
That's amazing.
Most people don't know that. But when I'm trying to figure something out,
He did that on your podcast, actually.
and exactly
Proverbs.
and when he's trying to give the most relatable antidote, he responds with scripture. I've never met someone that outside in a more normal setting that does that. He's the only one.
What does this have to do with the head of the table?
I think that's what it means.
Okay.
You know what? As soon as you said that, you know what I said to myself in my head? We don't deserve that.
That's what we need.
No. Yeah.
I agree. That's what I would like.
Yeah.
I actually don't have a problem with that. And the only thing that I would do is figure out the VP that if they try to take him out, they'd have to say,
We don't want that guy. That's why you get like Pastor Doug to be his VP or something. No,
Pastor Doug was VP, like, oh, Tucker's great.
We'd much rather have Tucker. So that's what you do.
Because you know what? I don't think
pitch him.
I think, unfortunately, a Tucker presidency where he actually won, what I think would happen in some sense, I almost wanted Hillary to win in 2016. And let me tell you why. Because we get lazy.
Yeah.
We don't do the things. You said it perfectly. You're like, okay, 2024, Trump gets elected. He buys us time. That's not how we're going to act. We're going to act like things are going to be great.
Like it's a relief.
He's going
Like
to
it's
do
relief.
all the
Yeah.
work. And if Tucker were to get elected, what you get out of that is if you do the work, a generation of blessing that flows down to your grandkids. But we don't want to do the things necessary on the local level. The only way that I would say that would be an idea that would be good for the people, and I love me some Tucker, is if the people had already done the ground game at the local environment, local level of politics, local level of engagement, institution building, so that what he does in a 4 or 8 year presidency actually has lasting results for 25 to 30 years. We don't deserve that kind of grace.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Can you imagine that?
Dang, that hurts.
Even if he were to run in 2028, and if he weren't to win, but if he ran on a God first platform, just the conversation that it brings to the dinner table, just to get people thinking, it would change the makeup of America forever because everyone would be forced to deal with that reality. Right now, we talk about it in quiet rooms, in private passage. We don't talk about it as mainstream. But if you had a president that actually has a chance to win, I don't know if he'll win, but if he had a chance to win, the whole world will be talking about him. And if he ran on a God-first platform, you are bringing God into the household of every household in the world. Yeah. That would change the trajectory of the world forever.
There's a lot of trajectory there that's to change. There was 2 questions I'd have to have him answer for me that would help me feel like I could be fully behind him. They're like, there's 2 things. After those are secure, I think I'd be fine. But that's an interesting, like, I've been thinking about the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, like, where does he fit in all this? Because he seems like the runner-up in a lot of ways. But he doesn't seem like the runner-up with Trump. And there's still some ways that he's operating that concern me. I think it's way too lever of power for DeSantis and his posturing. I went to, I don't know if people remember, I went to Florida when they were shut down. It wasn't free. It wasn't good.
You landed in the airport and had to sign documentation.
I had to sign documentations to leave the gate. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember like that's so, and there wasn't a kind of robust repentance against that was public, that was like, we screwed up. We had the opportunity and so those are some things that bother me about that. But I think he's done a great job since then. But I don't even know if we would deserve a DeSantis without some really heavy repentance.
We don't deserve anything we get, but yet we have to hope and want it.
I had to up on me again.
Right.
I see what
That's
you did
right.
there. That's
You
true.
know?
I do want it. I do want it. And yet at the same time, I want to make sure that we get all the cancer out. There's a lot of
that's right.
cancer that's in
right.
there that we need to get out. And then we're like, man, this could.
And that's repentance.
And
that's what you're getting at,
that's what I'm getting at. And it's like, because then those type of leaders, then we get a Solomon type of leader, right? Because there's some real deep hearted repentance there. And that's like, oh, okay, now we got a good leader. And there's some real good things that can happen from that.
I think every president we've had so far has been self-serving. They care more about their pride than America. They care more
think it's
about
true.
their influence and their power and their reach and their money more than everything else. Everyone is actually selfish and greedy.
Yeah.
That's all we've had. And if you look, it actually hasn't worked that great because we keep on electing people that are greedy, power hungry, and selfish.
Right.
Because we are.
Because we are.
Yeah.
The only way to counter that and change society is actually put someone in that's the complete opposite. It's like, oh, Tucker isn't power hungry enough. Well, that's actually what you want. He doesn't care about money enough. Well, actually, that's what you want.
Exactly.
You
That's
want the
exactly.
opposite of everything we've dealt with. Because what we know is what we've done so far, it actually doesn't work. We need someone that aligns with our core values, which is God, family.
I agree with you. I'm not even arguing with you. I'm saying that the reason we don't have that is because we are the kind of people that are more like Trump instead of like Tucker. Which is why we have a Trump instead of a Tucker.
But in our hearts, we all want what's best, which is be able to provide for our families. We don't want to live in conflict, which is Trump lives in a conflict type of world. We don't want to live in conflict in our real lives. Actually, people are really conflict avoidant, right? They would rather not say anything than have a hard discussion with people. That's how people are. People don't
and
want
stand
conflict.
6 feet apart and wear a mask and all
Yeah,
that.
we want to just live.
Right.
We just want to live peaceful, quiet lives and leave me alone.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
actually most Americans.
That's most people.
That's
Yeah.
most Americans. I don't want to be that involved. I want to believe in God. I want to go to church. I want to take care of my family and make sure my family has
That's
enough
right.
money and supplies to sustain.
Yeah.
That's actually all what people want.
Right.
They tell you you want opulence. They tell you you want a big house. They tell you want a lot of cars. They tell you all this, but actually, if you strip it all away, people want the simplest things in life.
I think that your argument, the reason I take it seriously, because I think as I was watching your interview with Tucker, I think if you tried to ask him or you tried to convince him, I don't think he in any way would be like, you're right. I don't think you could convince him
No,
to do it.
he doesn't want it.
Which is almost like, I kind of like that.
That's exactly
it's like,
why.
and so I get that. I totally get that. I want a presidency like that I think would be good to actually have a much longer lasting effect at the end of the day.
I think what we need is a president that does it because he knows it's necessary done, not because he wants it to be done.
Yeah.
There
That's
is
right.
a
That's
fundamental
right.
problem with America. There's a fundamental with society. And unfortunately, even though I don't want to do it, even though I don't want to be the one, why God, why me?
Yeah.
I have no choice because God is telling me this is my calling. I have to do it. And I'm willing to sacrifice in order to do it. You want that guy. You don't want the guy that says, I want to do it, put me in charge, put my name on the board.
That's facts.
But that's who we get every single time. And that's the top leadership of every part of society.
Right.
You always end up with the guy that wants to be there.
Yeah.
And it fails every single time.
Yep.
Let's get a guy that actually lives in modesty.
Amen.
I'll let you have that.
That's
one.
great.